Today on The Passionate Cook, we're going to learn how to pair food with wine, one of life's biggest mysteries. So let's go into the kitchen. So John, I'm so glad that you were able to come to the show today.
Me too. This is a treat. It's great.
Now, you are a member and a judge of the Wine Judges of Canada. And what does it entail to be a wine judge?
Well, first you have to be really passionate. It's a big job being a wine judge. You have years of training, years and years of training. Most of us are also winemakers, so we've had experience not just tasting wines, but making them for years and years. And you need to go through rigorous testing, prove that you can taste a wine blindly over and over again, describe the wine, know what it's made of, without knowing what's actually in the bottle. And so that's the kind of skills that you develop. And it gives me the opportunity to learn how to teach people to do what I've learned to do over the years without having to spend 25 years doing it.
And how does a wine judge differ from being a sommelier?
Right, so a sommelier is really focused on getting people who come to the table the right wine to match the food that they want to eat.
Okay.
A wine judge is actually judging wines on their own merits against all the other wines in the world that are of the same grape, the same style, and determine which ones are the best quality and how to make good wines great. So it's a little bit of a different twist. We both are interested in the same thing. What's in the bottle is what's important.
But it's funny because when you say what the wine judge does, it really does go hand in hand with making your own wine. Because if you're judging it, you're also going to want to make it and make it as good as you can make it.
You have to know how to make a great wine to be able to judge them. And so everything from the yeast that was used, the nature of the planting, how the farmer looked after those fields, all of that is part of what goes into making a great wine. And so as a judge, you need to really appreciate all those components as you're tasting wines and appreciating what someone's done with the grapes.
Excellent. Well, today you've brought an array of different wines, and we all are familiar with Niagara. But Picton and Prince Edward County, that's a relatively young area, and is that an area we need to keep our eye on?
Yeah, I must say that I've been watching Prince Edward County grow and grow. The number of wineries there now are 3 times what they were 10 years ago. The number of grapes planted has expanded immensely, and there's some terrific wines now coming out of there. We're seeing them internationally winning competitions routinely, and so the growers are doing better and better jobs of making really good fruit, and the winemakers are gathering the skills to bring the best of that fruit to the bottles, and we're seeing that. I was just thrilled when I went down there with the great wine, the great food, great accommodation. It's a happy place for sure.
It is, and it feels, when I go there, it feels just like a new Niagara on the Lake. You know, it has some of those great little towns. I know that some of the growers are using their own grapes, but they're also getting their grapes from Niagara as well. What grapes are in the Prince Edward County area?
Okay, so really everybody has tried to figure out what the optimum grapes are for the county based on the soils and the climate.
Right.
And Chardonnay and Pinot Noir are the go-to grapes for, and virtually everybody has some of those because they're just great cold climate grapes and they produce really excellent quality wines.
Right.
Now the grapes that are still young there, and so it's going to get better and better and better with time. We are starting to see the evidence of that now. But there's also a whole bunch of experimental grapes that are being grown there for the first time in Ontario. And these are grapes that have been developed for very cold climates in the Americas and in Europe. And so they're experimenting with grapes that we won't see and recognize the names of, but the flavors are wonderful.
And so they can use those to blend?
They blend them,
bring out other flavors in the wine.
You know, there's almost no wine that's 100% one grape.
Right.
Blending is key, and you bring nuances to the wines by adding this and that to them. And in some years, when, like, we've just had a really cold winter, so a number of the more sensitive vines are not going to produce much fruit this year.
Right.
So these colder climate styles, which are hardier, are going to be the workhorses and backbones when you have a bad winter. And so that's what we're seeing, is that everything that's coming in Prince Edward County is something to watch out for, and I would recommend people go down and spend a few days and have some fun.
Is there a big difference in the wines or the grapes that they're using between Prince Edward County and Niagara? Or does Niagara focus on anything a little bit different?
Niagara is an internationally known wine region now. It
Right.
covers the full gamut of grapes that are grown in France, are grown here, and experimenting is going on even more broadly. I just saw Tempranillo planted.
Did you really?
And there's things being tried because it's capable of that. When we get to the county, we only have about 12 years of real grape growing experience, and people are kind of working their way forward. I think it's probably too soon to say whether they're going to be the same in the end or different, but we know that Niagara is maturing and having all kinds of complex flavors in all kinds of different wines. You can get anything that you want in your palate for any food out of Niagara. The county is really still focused on leaner, more mineral-driven wines, and they're perfect with much of the Canadian cuisine as well. But there isn't the same diversity as there is in Niagara.
Now, if we leave Niagara and Prince Edward County and we come up to our own Durham region, we've got some wineries here.
Yes, we do. We've had I would say an uneven history of winemaking in the county. Durham region is really a place that lives on the Oak Ridges Moraine, and the Moraine is cooler than either Prince Edward County or
Right.
Niagara, and so the grapes are really struggle here. And they're the cold climate styles that we can make: Baco Noir, Marchal Foch, Pinot Gris. Some of the hardier grapes will grow here, and there's some success with those. We're also seeing the good vineyards now starting to grow these really cold hardy grapes that are starting to show real promise. Frontenac Gris, Marquette, and some other hardy whites that are going to be really, really good in the future.
But lesser known.
But lesser known. It's like everything, people have to experiment and learn.
And we're going to talk about
we're
that.
gonna do that.
We're going to do that. We're going to talk about that
Yeah.
because that's why we want to talk about pairing with food and wine today, because it is so confusing for people.
Right.
And we're going to try and break that down and use your expertise to help us with that. But maybe you could help us with just a couple of the wineries in the area that we should, I guess, be cognizant of.
Right. Yeah, I was just thinking that I should mention, we just saw Ocala just had its Festival of the Fields, and they have a big wine dinner out in the fields. They
Really?
put out the tables and invite people to come and eat food there. So that's the Ocala
Wow.
Winery near Port Perry. They've been doing that for years and years, and it's a great event every year. It sells
See, now
out.
that's like a Michael
So-
Statlander thing. And it's happening right here in
Yeah,
Durham
it's
region.
right here, yeah.
Do they have a
Right.
chef that helps with that?
Yes, absolutely. There's about 4 different parts to the meal, and they have a whole dessert section, a whole front end. There's
right.
pairings all the way through.
Well,
So
let's
that's
talk
one
about
thing.
that more
But,
right when
you
we
know,
come back from our break. We're back with John Peters. And John, we were just talking about our wineries, our local wineries in Durham region,
Right.
before we went to break. So if you could,
There's a couple I wanted to speak about because the strength of the wineries in Durham region right now is focused on fruit wine. We have some tremendous fruit wines, and they year in, year out, they're great producers and they make great quality wines. So there's one on the east and one on the west. The one on the west is the Applewood Farm Orchard Winery,
Okay.
and they make a wide range of raspberry fruit wines as well as ciders, and they make a mead that is really very, very nice.
Oh.
And so it's a great place for kids as well. On the east, near Bowmanville, we have Archibald Family Estate Winery, and they are really a big apple producer. And of course, a lot of the fruit wines start as apple farms here in Durham region, but the Archibalds have just become a fantastic contributor to the Ontario fruit wine industry, and they win medal after medal and award after award with their excellent fruit wines. So
Now I've been there and I love their wine, and I was a disbeliever. I thinking fruit wine was maybe a lesser wine, but I think paired with something like a roast pork or a turkey or some of our winter dishes, they would be wonderful.
That's right. The fall is coming, and you know the apple harvest starts in late August and goes right through into October. All of the fruits have now been picked at that point in time, and Archibald's going flat out making tremendous products that go with all these fall foods. And so I would say, everybody should try some of these wines. Archibald's, Ocala, and Applewood on the west.
And people shouldn't be thinking that this is like a cider. This, I know Archibald's has cider, but they are wines and they are blended with other fruits as well. And it's not just an apple drink. It is a mature wine.
Yes, that's right. Some of them are really luscious and intense fruit wines that are good for dessert. Some of them are made for sipping on the porch, a hot summer day, and they're just cool and delicious social wines. And
so we need to do that in Durham region.
There's a wide range of those. Yeah, you should really not overlook these wines. I don't think you can do any better in Niagara than the fruit wines in Durham now.
Wow, that's a huge testament coming from a wine judge.
Absolutely.
So today we are going to pair some wine with a fish soup, and this fish soup is a tomato, wine, and shellfish soup.
Right.
And I've chosen a Chardonnay, not a very oaky Chardonnay. So maybe you could talk to us about that.
Yeah, this is a Trius Chardonnay from Niagara. It's a 2012.
Okay.
The thing that's important about Chardonnay is it's the most celebrated and widely made grape in the world. Every grape growing region grows Chardonnay, and everybody does it differently to suit the particular climate they have. Ontario climate is cooler, it's more mineral soil. We have better acids in the wines, for example. And that's when I say acid and mineral, now you're thinking seafood, the mineral composition, and the acid, the tomato.
Okay.
What you want to do is start to learn what a wine gives to food to bring out the things that you're working with to get the dish to sing the way you want it to.
So how would we do that? I think we might need to taste that first.
Oh yeah, yes, we should taste this. That would be, if you don't taste the wine, then you're never quite sure. You're very welcome. That you've got the right blend, right? And sometimes I've got to the point where I need to open more than one to get just what I'm looking for.
Okay.
You may think this is the right Chardonnay, and then you go, wow, well I'm gonna need to sweeten this up a little bit or to balance with that, or I'm gonna add a little bit
too
more.
much oak, or maybe
whatever.
not.
Well, you never know. I think always taste.
Okay.
Always taste.
Let's taste.
This is a full-bodied Chardonnay. This has a lovely. The nose is mineral.
Okay.
Then it goes citrusy. It's all lemon and lime. And then it finishes in that smoky.
That's what I'm getting, the smoky.
Yeah, that's the
at
back end, and that's the barrel. That's the little bit of barrel aging that this has had. It wasn't made in wood, but it got a little bit of barrel treatment at the end.
And so would you say that this is going to enhance our soup?
I think it'll be terrific because of the acid. Like you can get a really good grip right at the front end. This gives you a nice bite, and it tells you there's good acid in this wine.
Okay.
And so that's going to bring the mineral out, and that's going to enhance those foods, I think.
Well, I'm going to start cooking, and just give me 1 second to get organized here. We're really fortunate. We're actually using a virgin olive oil today, and this is from a local family here that imports it from Italy. So it just seems like everything we're doing, minus our fish, is quite local. So in my oil, I'm going to put some garlic, because we always love garlic. And you can already start to smell that. And I'll turn up my heat a little bit. And we're going to use fennel today, and I love fennel because raw, it's quite licoricey, but once it's been cooked, it's nice and mellow, and it just adds a real nice layer of flavor. So this is our fennel. We also have some onion in here, and we've chopped it up quite fine. We just want to sweat this down. We don't want it to turn brown. We just want it to get nice and translucent. Okay. Okay, so while I'm doing this, why don't you tell me a bit more about Chardonnay? You talked about the fact that Niagara and its cooler climate is great for Chardonnay, but we hear about Old World, we hear about New World, we hear about oaked, we hear, and a couple of times I've heard that Chardonnays are great with buttery dishes and heavy, like lobstery dishes and cream sauces. Then I heard that people weren't happy with the oak, so they've started making the unoaked version.
So Chardonnay is, people think, oh, I can tell a Chardonnay right away. What they actually are tasting is the wood, usually. The old way Chardonnay was always made was in a barrel. And the barrel character drove the flavors of the grape. It's actually a very malleable type of fruit in that it will go lemon, lime, and zesty, or it will go creamy, buttery caramel. You can go wherever you want. It's a winemaker's grape. And that's why it's grown everywhere in the world, because every climate is different and every winemaker's style is different. Let's remember that food is what started winemaking. You want, people grow grapes to celebrate the region's earth, the soil, the climate, just like they grow their tomatoes and all their other vegetables. The wine has to go with them. And so when Chardonnay was started to be invented and broadened all over the world, everybody planted Chardonnay with the idea of making it to go with the foods in their climate.
So what goes together grows together.
That's right.
Or what grows together goes together.
Well, they do. That's a general statement. But you'll find that you can find a Chardonnay that will go with a seafood dish just as well as you can find one that will go with steak. So you need to kind of respect the fact that if you're going to buy Chardonnays, you need to know a little bit about this grape and the different styles, because there's so many. One of the ones I brought, this is a Huff Estates 2012 unoaked Chardonnay. So this was made in stainless steel. Never saw any wood at all. And when you taste it, it tastes like seafood automatically. It's very, very mineral driven, and they call it slaty almost. And that's just the nature of that. It's lots of acid. So again, you could use a Chardonnay like that for a dish like this as well. Then
and just while you're going to tell me about that other one, I'm just going to tell people that we have just added some carrots to sweeten our soup up, and we've added some bell peppers as well. I'm just still going to sweat these for a few more minutes. Already we can smell it. And then I'm going to add my tomato paste, and that I think is going to play off your wine as well. And we're going to add a little bit of tarragon. I do love tarragon. That goes really well with the fennel. And then we're going to add our wine. And I've got some fish sauce here. Not fish sauce. I have some clam juice.
Clam juice, right.
That's right. And then we'll just let this cook for a few more minutes. So let's keep talking about our Chardonnay.
Yeah, so the other thing, I mean, here's another example. This is a sparkling wine. Again, I just happened to have these because I came back from my trip to the county recently. But this is a Chardonnay sparkling wine. So again, you can this can be had before the meal as well. Like you could have it or with pizza or anything that excites you. You know, this is a fresh, fruity wine that's going to really lift your palate easily.
Well, we're going to take another break, and we're going to come back. We're going to taste our fabulous soup, and we're going to talk about pairing for a 3-course meal.
Perfect.
Well, how good does that smell?
Oh, wonderful. It's coming along beautifully.
Okay, so we've put the wine in there, and we've also put the clam juice in. In goes our halibut and our scallops. We're using bay scallops because they're nice and sweet. And then, of course, we're using shrimp. I'm going to give that a stir, put the lid back on it, and this will be done in about 3 minutes. So I had asked a question about how we pair things, and is there one food-friendly wine that we can stick with? I know you're laughing at me.
So I guess my answer is, do you eat hamburgers for all of your meals every day?
Okay, that was a bad question.
So no, it's just recognize that you like to eat different foods with different times of the week, the year. You have a wide range of available foods in Canada to choose from. We've got a great variety of wines to choose from. and some go really well with some foods and some go not so well with foods. So learning those pairings makes it just that much more pleasurable. You get the most out of your food, you get the most out of your wine.
So experiment is key.
I think starting to teach yourself a little bit. Don't just buy the same wine every time that you go to the liquor store.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's a big mistake that people make. They get very satisfied with one thing, and then that's the only thing they drink. And it's a bit of a mistake because there's so much variety and choice at the same price point. No matter what your price point is, you can find lots of good wines in a wide range
Variety,
of styles.
correct.
When we were making this meal, we talked about what wine we would use, and we could have picked one of a dozen different wines that were on the liquor store shelves right now in Ontario for less than $15 a bottle. There's lots of choice out there, and some of them are great and some of them are not going to be so great. So,
and again, we don't have
a
to
bit of
do
fun.
white with chicken or fish, and we don't have to do red with steak, so experiment
absolutely
is
not.
the key.
Yeah, I mean, rosés have become a huge issue because people are recognizing that rosé is that big crossover.
Yep.
You can almost have a red meat with it or a white meat, or it can just be a social wine. And so with big whites, they will go with heavy meats, and lighter reds will go with pasta or lighter foods. So there's lots of choice that people should be looking at.
Perfect. Well, this is just about done.
Looks
I'm
fabulous.
just looking at the halibut's already done, waiting for the shrimp, and I think we just need to have a little taste of
I
the
think we-
broth. Even
Okay.
if we're waiting for our shellfish to be done, because the broth is really going to give us our flavor. So how about I do this? We're friends.
Lovely. Thank you.
Let's just have a little taste. And tell me if you think that was the pairing.
It was. You know, I can actually get a hint of that smoke in there.
Oh, that's delicious. That's delicious.
And the acid. It's a very nice broth, isn't it? It's lovely.
It is.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's only got about 3 more minutes to all that
So-
fish. I was thinking it was a 3-minute dish, but I'm thinking it's a 6-minute dish on this burner.
You've done a fabulous job in no time at all. It's great.
I think big green salad, loaf of crusty bread, the rest of that wonderful bottle.
When do we start?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm having a large dinner party. I'm going to have 4 courses. Can I just have one wine?
Well, I'd say, obviously, you've heard me kind of talking about the range of wines that are available, and I have to say no. I really would encourage you to think about your main course. That main is the centerpiece of the whole event. So pick the wine that best suits that as your main, and then build to it from either end. And so what I'm getting at is that when people arrive, you want something light and fresh and easy to start with.
And not a lot of alcohol.
And yeah, that's the other thing is don't give people 14% alcohol drinks when they first arrive, unless you are going to eat right away. That's going to start settling in, and they're going to slow down on you, and you're not going to have that lift that you want when people come to the table.
So a Prosecco might be a good idea?
Yeah, like a nice light sparkling wine, or even there's 6 to 9% sparkling wines that are out now.
Okay.
That are just really, really popular. And you're right, it's a little bit fizzy, it's a little bit sweet. So that's
Okay.
one way. Then you go through you get into your main, and now you've got a heavier wine that goes with the meal. It's got a little more alcohol in it, a little more structure. It balances the food, as we've done here today with this soup.
And then our dessert?
And your dessert, you're going to want something a little bit sweeter, a little bit fresh, to
Perfect.
clean palates up and to give people a nice memory of the whole meal.
Okay,
But you
well-
don't want them all to be the same. I
That
would say.
helps us immensely, and now I know what to do on my next dinner party.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was a lot of fun.